Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at Foundation's Road Trip Across America. Today, we are in beautiful Tallahassee, Florida, and we are visiting with Nil Patel, the owner and developer of District 850. Nil, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
This is a beautiful facility, and I have to say, you've done incredible things in a 44,000 square foot footprint.
Well, thanks to you, and of course foundations too, but we were really pleased with the team we had, and we were really happy.
Well, you've been open since November of 2020, completing what was arguably one of the most difficult builds during the COVID process.
It was.
Of sorts, and I gotta say, you're a pretty gutsy guy for going in the ground and making it happen during a very difficult time period. But I think it has.
We were too deep into it to back out.
Totally understandable. So maybe you can share with our viewers a little bit about where did the vision for District 850 come from?
So Jerry, we moved from Houston back in 2011, and there was no entertainment center in town, and there was always this void for the community to go somewhere. And the nearest places we have are Jacksonville, Orlando,
Sure.
Panama City, or Destin, Atlanta, 3 to 4 hour drive. So there was something in the back of my mind to do and bring to Tallahassee what the community needs.
So you must have done a little travel, obviously, before this concept came into your mind. You've probably seen a few things within the industry and formulated your own plan, essentially.
That's true. We are avid travelers, so we've been travel across the world and US. So we've seen multiple locations of different concepts, and that's what we wanted to bring, a combination of something that the community actually needs. So,
That's right. So what's your background? What have you done previously from a career perspective?
So I started off in business in 2004 as a gas station owner, and since then I've owned multiple gas stations, liquor stores, motels, and real estate across.
So lots of retail-based businesses, right?
Yes.
Dealing with consumers and kind of understanding how the consumer ticks. This is obviously a very big enterprise and a very different industry.
It is.
When you said to yourself, you know what, Tallahassee needs entertainment, Tallahassee needs something special, can you give our viewers an idea of the process, the research process that you were undertaking to kind of validate your thought process?
So first I saw what we had in the market. We had 2 bowling alleys with 40 lanes and box TVs that never upgraded anything, and we had another entertainment center which was also quite dated, and no upgrades were done. There was so much more events, not so much more attractions out there that Tallahassee had not seen. So I went to multiple different conventions, got together a team, and formed from there.
So that's pretty amazing, because ultimately what you've created here, I mean, we have bowling, we have axe throwing, we have a full portfolio of arcade games, we've got escape rooms, we've got literally laser tag on a multi-level arena. You've got something for everyone in the facility. And on top of that, you added a little bit of virtual reality in the form of a motion theater. This is a lot of entertainment in one box.
And that's what we wanted to make. We want to make this a one-stop shop, and hopefully there will be phase 2 and 3 to add to this, and we'll be all one stop.
So you went through the market feasibility phase, and certainly we were able to validate the market and determine we had enough of a market here to deliver a first-class facility. But then we had to start dealing with the real estate piece, right? Tell us a little bit about your experience in searching for a suitable piece of real estate.
So after the feasibility was satisfying, which, thank you, AEM did a great job in putting together all this attraction portfolio of what we should do. The real estate was a challenge. One, we wanted to be at a location where it's accessible to a majority of the town.
Okay.
Having said that, most of the time that means you need to be in the center, but centers are already developed everywhere.
Of course.
So it's a tricky thing of where your location needs to be on a different markets. For us, we decided we wanted to be on the east side in the center. It's a new development. There are about 1,500 homes coming next to us in next 5 years, and it's a brand new community. So
well, that's incredible, because looking around the area immediately surrounding District 850, you've got a tremendous amount of new housing and new residents into the marketplace. You know, it almost seems as though the residential market's filling in around you.
It is filling fast, and the beauty is that while that's being filled, we are still quite centered from the north, south, and the furthest thing that we are away from is the college. But other than that, we are within reach of 20-minute drive time from every location in Tallahassee.
So you made the decision to start with a raw piece of land, right? You said to yourself, look, we're going to build a building on this site. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you know, we narrowed down a size for this facility based on the components that we had to put into the building itself. But then ultimately, we needed to actually craft a building to do it. In the design process, when you were moving through the design process, and I know you worked with dynamic design on this, tell us a little bit about how involved you were in setting the stage for what this facility was going to look and feel like.
So the beauty with the team that I had with AEM, Dynamic, and everybody else is you can be as involved or not involved at all, because these guys do a great job. I personally was very involved, and that's what I like developing, and that's why I wanted to see how it's going to pan out. I wanted to make sure that things are collaborating with each other, and it's not one section, you go from one section to the other, you're day and night. So I wanted to blend in, and
you wanted to add a few of your own elements and signature to the building.
Yes, like I said, while traveling, I have been to multiple locations, and every location has its own spotlight.
Sure.
And I did want to create and bring those few spotlights and try to put it under one roof. Like the lounge sitting we did over there by the lanes. As soon as you walk in, you have a grand lobby, and then you can see the lanes. But I wanted a tier in between where there's enough layers that people see through, and it's not you walk in and it's like a bowling alley.
Sure. So that's a really interesting element, right, to add. So you've got a very special lounge area for people to just relax.
Yep.
But it also gives them a perfect vantage point of the facility itself. But I also notice a lot of special touches in the restaurant, dining, and bar areas. You know,
well, liquor is my background, so I always wanted a robust bar that's a little bling bling bar, if we call it, and that's why we put it was curved. We put some lighting in below over there. We had some cabinet where we can display high end. We're a very strong bourbon selection bar, so we did want to display a lot of our high ends, and bar is special to me, so I was very involved in what the color was, how the design is, what it's going to look like from the front as we walk in, because that to me should be the centerpiece of that entire restaurant, where it brings the whole energy when people are hanging out and
yes.
drinking and they're having good time. That energy, it needs to be the center of the whole place.
Well, the attention to detail is remarkable in the bar and dining areas, because what I found and what I felt was great when it was finally built is that you have really a bird's eye view of everything in the facility from that dining area, yet it feels very private at the same time.
So there are a couple things we did. We wanted to elevate the dining area so that any family can sit down and have their kids across the lobby in the arcade and still have a vision of them. At the same time, we wanted the restaurant to be its own business, not a traditional, typical bowling alley food. So we tried to make the dining a little upscale, and we added some chairs for multiple reasons. One, it blocks out our sound, and people who are eating at the restaurant don't get any bowling sound or the arcade sounds. But at the same time, again, it gives us the layers of vision where, all right, you have one layer, you can see through it, you have some you can see here, some you can see there. So it just adds to the dynamic.
Well, it works really well, and what I found to be really exciting is that you've got now a bank of private lanes off of that dining area as well for a super private experience as well. So in addition to the public lanes that we have here, those guests and perhaps corporate events that really want to have a little something extra have a very unique suite to participate in. What was your philosophy behind that bowling suite?
So our Hyper Lounge is mainly it was geared towards, and this was pre-COVID, so it worked out in a different scenario. But originally, thought the process was we did want to include or market to a corporate bucket, and that lounge would be can be bought out for a private event. And what we've seen now is not only corporates are buying, but even wedding after party,
Sure.
Gender reveal, birthday parties, 50th, and all milestones have been.
That's pretty impressive. You know, I imagine a lot of those folks have chosen District 850 because of the finishes and the look of this facility. So I got to ask you the question, because it's obviously going through the entire phase. Things get expensive with every build in every industry. But you didn't cut a corner when it came to the look and feel of the facility, particularly the finishes. What was important to you about these finishes?
So it is important that the vision that I had was I wanted to build a high-end facility. And if you are going to do that, it starts off, everything's approved, and as the construction delays happen, as the money starts drying up, we start cutting corners on architectural elements, which is the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
And that is something that I was very adamant that we're not going to do that. We have a great team of investors that I work with for all my projects, and they trust me completely. So we were at a situation where the money did dry up like everybody else, and we were just able to collect some more liquidity and keep that going. The reason that was important is that reflects how much we can charge. If I'm giving you a 5-star facility, I can charge based on that, and people are paying. Means we are charging a reasonable amount of money, and we have absolutely no complaints on prices.
So that's a very important thing for all of us to consider, is that people expect quality today.
Yes.
They're willing to pay more for quality, but we have to deliver the right experience from the get-go. So when you look throughout this facility, you see an incredible number of finishes, from leather seating to stone on the walls to brick to high-end carpets to high-end finishes. All of that plays into your pricing strategy, doesn't it?
It does, and the consumer favorite is the epoxy flooring.
Is that right?
The people, as soon as they walk in, they absolutely love the floor of the grand lobby.
So that's a really important point, because I know you spent a lot of time trying to decide what the vision for that floor would be. I remember back in the early stages of construction, you agonizing over this question of what should this floor ultimately be?
Because that's the first thing that they saw as soon as they walk in. With the double doors, that's the floor. Then you come into second door, and then you have the whole vision of, all right, you have arcade, bowling, restaurant, and everything opens up at that point. But till then, if all that is great, but your floor is mediocre, it kind of messes up the.
I can appreciate that, because you were going for a very strong experience here. You wanted people to walk out of district and say, I've never experienced this before. I think it's fair to say this is the market leader project in Tallahassee.
It is.
Any consumer that walks in the door has got to be able to say to themselves, this is really quite an experience for sure. Let's talk a little bit, maybe you can share with our viewers a little bit about the process you had to undertake on the financing side. You know, we built a budget, we understood the capabilities of the market, but we still had to obtain the bank financing for it.
It is, and it was a really difficult process. It was a lot of sleepless nights, because initially going in, me again, going back to the traveling, I've seen all these locations, and in my mind, I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's a no-brainer because we have the feasibility study. There is nothing like this in the market. We're bringing new people are talking about it. Why shouldn't the banks finance it?
Sure.
And having said that, we started our site work and we bought the land in cash, which we would put for collateral once we get that. So we had started all that process, and all of a sudden, when we started approaching the banks, being the small town we are, and nobody knew what I was talking about. So I explained, this is the vision, we've had multiple phone calls with a lot of banks.
We most certainly did.
Yeah. The first thing they would ask me is like, have you done this before? I was like, no, I have not, but I'm confident and we have a great team, and we have a team whose company's been in this for 50 years. So, and then comes Jerry on the phone call, all right, what's going on? And the banks were just not satisfied with the concept because they did not understand the concept.
And understanding is the key.
Yes.
There was a little disconnect sometimes with bankers when it comes to understanding how a market will react to a product. This was a premium product, and you were saying to the banks, we want to put a premium product in Tallahassee, and they're saying, well, can the market really handle this type of business model? But ultimately, there was a bank that came to the table here and saw the vision.
They did, and they believed in me, and they still didn't understand the concept. So all the top tier of the bank drove to Jacksonville to main event and kind of looked at what I'm talking about, and we're like, all right, like that, but a little better version than that, and some more activities than main event. But they did, and they really loved the concept. Unfortunately, the bank was not big enough for the size of the project we had, and that did not set them back. They came up with a solution. They partnered with a different bank, and now we have two banks involved to.
So there was the solution right there. We had the initial bank that felt strongly about the concept. They were able to partner with a regional bank to provide enough funding to allow the process to move forward.
Yes.
And ultimately, that's what triggered this into go mode. But then suddenly you found yourself in the situation of saying, somebody has to build it.
Build it.
How did we handle this?
So I've developed a few other retail locations, and it's not easy to get along with a contractor. Luckily, I've found one that is extremely honest and on time, which is most
a critical
important.
part of the process.
And understands what my needs are. That's the basic things. You know, if you say what you want to build, if they're not understanding what the language you're talking, then the product is something else. And again, unfortunately, he did not have enough bonding for this scale of project. So we went to a different company, very reputed company in town, with the condition that he would be as a consultant on the project. So, like two banks, we work with two contractors.
And did that work in your favor by having him on your side of the fence?
Yes, I would strongly recommend someone to, even if they don't have a contractor or they trust a contractor, have somebody work as a consultant on a project. It might be 1% more in your expenses, but you will end up saving in a lot of expenses or redoing or some change orders that you might have.
That's a really good point. Now, this was a large undertaking. Did you experience any challenges during construction?
Yes, like any construction, if there is no challenge, it's not called construction. So,
sadly, you're right.
Well, it started with our pond flooding. So even before we started the construction, we had to stop, and city would not give us any permits because the storm water over here had a 100-year or some flooding issue where it really rained hard for a few days, and the storm pond. So
the retention basin overflowed. And that created an issue.
Yes, and that put the city noticed that, all right, so if this is an issue, we need to solve this before we start more development or putting more impervious surface on the facility. So that was a challenge. Had a lot of delays because of that. Unfortunately, not in our hands because this was stormwater was offsite for the community common stormwater. So the community developers were working on that with the city.
Right.
Again, with the size of the storm and all this development around, it's a huge pond. So it did take good 6 to 10 months of delay on that side.
That's pretty significant, and for a project that's already in go mode, that can present some real challenges along the way. But ultimately, the contracting team was able to make up a little bit of time and work very diligently and efficiently in getting this facility to opening day.
So we started construction in January, and we were open in November. So
Think about that. Think about what had to happen from January to November to allow that to occur.
And COVID.
On top of that.
So we had construction going on, and between this 11 months, every single vendor came and installed their equipment, and the construction happened. So it's not just construction; it's the whole thing. Turnkey was in 11 months. So very blessed to have contractors like them and our consultant contractor and the team that we had with every vendor that we chose.
That's really impressive to be able to stick to a timeline along that schedule. But then you made a very important decision, and this facility opened obviously in November. You had done a lot of work in advance of that, making sure you understood how this business was functioning. But then you took over the role of general manager, and you said to yourself, I'm going to take the role in the early stage. Why did you do that?
So this is my first facility, and going into this, I've went to Foundations, Laser 360, IAPA, Amusement Expo, every single one that you can think of, Pizza Expo, Nightclub and Bar Expo, it went everywhere. But operations is different. Once you get into it, the challenges you face, what to expect, how the community is reacting, how your employees are reacting, everything it's not what books can teach you. And I wanted to get my hands dirty to see what challenges we faced, what mistakes I made during development and construction. So when we do this again, we can solve those problems and make it better.
And now that you're essentially 4 months into the process, you've made a decision now to put a general manager in that slot. You feel comfortable kind of transferring the reins.
I think we've encountered quite a few of challenges, and we've handled them really well. Community has supported us very well, and it's time that we look into more development. So I'm going to phase out into development phase and let the general manager do the operations.
So you're going back to what excites you most.
That's right.
Which is creating businesses in markets that need them.
Creating businesses to create memories.
Can I ask you, are you pleased with the performance of District?
Absolutely. Given the situation we have, we could not have asked for anything better. And Tallahassee has been very, very supporting to us. There's no words.
That's fantastic news. I'm really glad you're having such strong response from the consumers. And of course, the other big question that everyone always wants to know, was your family involved? Were they supporting you along the way?
Yes, and at this size and this scope, there's no way you can do it without your family support.
What's it like to be married to Nil Patel?
It's been a journey for me. 18 years now.
Oh wow, is that right?
18 years, and I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years before that from school. So long time together. I've seen him grow every step.
Right.
Starting from a small gas station, or maybe from an ADP job to one gas station,
right,
to multiple gas stations, to liquor stores, to real estate, and then to 850. That was his bingo, I think.
The man's always on the go, isn't
He
he?
is. He is. He's always. I feel like he's always constantly looking at the market. Like, what can I do next? I did this, and I feel like this business is doing good, but I need to do better. And so he goes to the next thing, and then the next thing, and one day
One level after another.
one level after another. And one day we are just sitting here, like we've moved to Tallahassee, 10 years now?
Okay.
So we're just sitting and talking. I think we were on a drive together, and we
Right.
just are talking. I was like, I think we need an entertainment venue in Tallahassee.
In Tallahassee itself.
Because we are outgoing people. We love to spend time with family. And so he goes one day, there's not much to do. And we came from Houston. And so I said, you're right. And he's like, I've been looking at this property in the middle of town. I was like, yeah, you should do it. You should open a Dave & Buster's. And he goes, that's a good idea. I think that's what we're going to do.
From the time we started this to the time where we were not getting the finances, my wife, Pooja, kids, everybody was there. We'll get through this. Once we opened, that's when they really kicked in. My wife used to go to her work, get up at 5:30 and come straight to district to help me out over here.
And just to clarify, your wife is a physician in town.
Yes. So she got up at 5:30 every day. Her first patient is at 7. Got done with her work by 5:30, and would come over here and close the location with me 7 days a week.
Now that's commitment. I gotta say, she's probably due for a really big holiday gift.
She is.
Coming forward.
She is. Yes.
That
We
is-
plan to travel this summer again.
It's so important, I think, that you have your family behind you and supporting you during an undertaking like this. Because, as you said, it has its ups and downs. And sometimes you need that support team around you to get through the tough spots.
And it's not for it all the time, right? So it's just in the beginning where everything's new, your staff is getting trained, you are going through the processes, different circumstances, new problems every day. So you face them, and you can be rest assured that you have somebody who you can trust who will take care of other issues while you're trying to solve.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
And family does that for you. It really
And we
does.
phase out. So now she went down from 7 days to just Friday, Saturday, to just Saturday, and she's done. So she'll only come when I
she
need
helped
her.
when it mattered.
It did.
And that's the key.
Yep.
Neil, I want to thank you for giving back to the industry. This is really kind of you to do this today. And
Thank you.
For those that are attending foundations, given that you were a foundations attendee years ago, it's really important to pay it forward in our industry. And I want to thank you so much for hosting us today. I think everyone has gotten a tremendous amount out of this interview because, if anything, it helps people understand the process and the timing and the ups and downs that happen in any project.
Yep. There's always going to be ups and downs. You just don't give up and have a good team like AEM.
Well, thank you so much, Neil.
Thank you, Jerry.
We
Yep.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.